What's up, YouTube? It's me, the ArtisanMc, and today I'm going to review for you The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore. Well, I am exceedingly very happy about this episode, being that I watched Bad Batch Episode 11 before this. I was right in picking The Mandalore second, or The Mandalorian second, because it did wash the taste of the Bad Batch out of my mouth. I enjoyed this episode, although it seemed a bit slow, like it ran a little long, but everything was interesting in it because it was all stuff that we had not seen before. So I was happy about that. This episode opens up with a trip back to Tatooine. And you see in it some fireworks going off and whatnot. And you find that we end up on Peli. And she is talking to a Rodidian about his speeder that's missing parts or whatever. And they're making a little deal for her to fix it. Once she gets finished making the deal with this Rodidian, you get Mando and Grogu showing up to Peli. And you find out that Mando has come to Peli looking for the circuit he needs to fix the IG-11 droid. Now, Peli says it's going to be hard to find, but she calls in her Jawa buddies, and they actually reiterate that, no, they don't have it, and can't find her, this whole part. So, Peli, in a bid to help Din, sells them on buying the R5 droid. Now, this is the same R5 droid from A New Hope. It's the same droid, right? So, it's funny in a sense that this droid has been hanging around all this time, and now he's getting a chance to go back out there into the field, and the droid is scared. He's shitty, he's scared. It's like, you might as well shit on himself. You might as well. Now, Dan is not really sold on the droid, but Peli offers him a good price. Tells him the droid can do what he needs it to do, which is scan the surface of Mandalore to make sure the air and stuff like that is not contaminated. She offers to retrofit his ship, take the bubble top off so the droid can go in the droid compartment, and they can be off. Little modifications, you see it, and they are off to the races. Now, a funny part about Peli when they were there is that she mentions Boba Fett, which is the first mention of another show in this show, which is she's asking if the Hutts were back and were we going to war to help Boba Fett, because the Hutts did promise in Book of Boba Fett that they would come back and they would go to war with Boba Fett. Since Mando helped them the last time, Mando will probably be helping them this time. But that was nice, but it came and went really quickly, okay? It's like you know, a straight thought. If you weren't paying attention or didn't care, you heard the name Boba Fett in the Mandalorian show and moved on from there, right? He didn't enlist his help, none of that shit. Be that as it may, Mando, Grogu, and R5 head off to Mandalore. Now, this is something that I wanted to see for a while. I wanted to be on the surface of Mandalore and see what that looked like. Having never watched the Clone Wars, I don't know if in the Clone Wars they showed you Mandalore in all its glory. But here it is a glass-covered crater hole made just planet, right? While going down to the planet, I was getting that whole Empire Strikes Back vibe where they cut through the clouds and the rain and stuff like that to finally open up onto what is Mandalore. Now, while they were in space and heading towards the planet, Din is telling Grogu about Mandalore. But to be honest, Din has never been there himself. He grew up on a planet right outside of it, or a moon right outside of it, but he has never been to the planet itself. So this is his first time going to the planet, just like it's Grogu's first time and R5's first time. Once on the planet, he lets R4 go out and try to explore and bring back some readings or whatnot, and R4 falls off the scope. And then has to go out after him to figure out what happened to him. Now, once he is inside, where R5 has lost contact, he is set upon by a few creatures that attack him and fight. Now, whereas the initial creature knocks his blaster away, what he does have, he uses, which is the Darksaber, which is the first time you've seen the Darksaber in this season 3 so far. And once again, you see that it is heavy. He cannot wield it right. He's getting some good slashes, but he's fighting the blade just like he's fighting these creatures. And he's actually taking more damage than he is just, mightily handling them. Why he didn't use his gauntlets and stuff, I do not know. But, everybody wants to see the Darksaber, so the Darksaber is out. Now, having defeated the creatures themselves look like Morlocks from the H.G. Wells Time Machine show. And that's kind of interesting to me, in a sense. I don't know the creature's name. Later in the episode, they did mention the creature's name, but I don't necessarily think it's important, because why the fuck would it be? I mean, they're just some creatures and some dissidents on this planet that is supposed to be irradiated, where people cannot survive, or humanoids cannot survive there. And here are some humanoid creatures surviving on this planet. Now, Din gets a hold of R5, gets back to the ship where he left Grogu sealed up with the windows up, and finds out that the air on Mandalore is fine. It is completely breathable. It is not poisoned. And this, in a sense, goes towards putting those seeds of doubt in Din's head about what the covert and the armorer were actually telling him as being true, right? In a sense, this could be the first seed in breaking down his faith, pretty much. Now, he takes it, he listens to it, and decides that he is going to go down with Grogu and take him, and they're going to go and explore and try to get to these living waters of Mandalore. Now, they are at the spot that Bo-Katan told them about, the Civic Center. They are there, and with Grogu in his pram, they go over to the edge and jetpack down and get to the bottom of a long chasm and just start walking along. Now, down in this chasm, there are different types of creatures and stuff like that down there. And it all looks like some Jim Henson, creature effect shop stuff in here, because they just look like puppets, which is not bothering me too much. It's just, yes, I do like practical effects, but I like them to look better. At least try to fool me. There was no fooling. It was like, oh, it's a puppet with light up eyes. It's pretty much what it was. Now, down in this cavern, Din comes across some stuff strewn on the ground, and he comes upon a face mask or a helmet of a Mandalorian. And when he picks it up, he is trapped by what I would call a robotic trapdoor spider. Clamps him in the cage, flips over, and starts walking away. Now, Grogu had hid when this happened, so the creature did not see Grogu. But it has Din. Din is trapped. He cannot move, and it's taking him back. And sure enough, it gets back to his lair and throws him on the spit, so to speak. Grogu has followed this creature, and he tries to free Din. How does he try to free him? With the Force, my friend. With the Force. Grogu tries to use the Force to pull Din free, and he is not able to pull him free. So he comes closer, and in his attempt to try to pull Din free, he makes a lot of noise. The creature hears and comes after him, and Din tells him, Grogu, to go get Bo-Katan. So the chase is on. Grogu force jumps into his pram, and he is the fuck out to get out of here. Now, this part was kind of funny to me because it just made me think of Fraggle Rock for some reason. But it was cool seeing Grogu's, first little mission by himself. He's in his pram, he's trying to get the hell out of there and dodging creatures and stuff like that, trying to eat them. And levitates all the way back up the chamber and gets to the scene that you saw in the trailer, which is he gets back to the opening of the cave to go out, and one of these Morlock-looking creatures jumps out, and he uses the Force to push that creature out of his fucking way and get back to the ship. Now, this is where it was convenient contrivance that they picked up an R5 astromech back on Tatooine. So Grogu jumps in the ship, and R5 pilots them to Bo-Katan's planet. I don't know how the R5 knew that, but I think Grogu pointed to the screen, and that's where he took him. Now, once back on Bo-Katan's planet, Bo-Katan sees the ship coming in, and she decides she's going to give Mando a piece of her mind about what she said the last time. And the only thing I'm thinking of is this bitch is sitting on this planet in this big ass castle in this big ass chair moping. And I'm like, why don't you do something? It's like, it just seems silly that she's just sitting there by herself with this one, dot bot droid, not doing a goddamn thing, but sitting in this chair. Now, when the ship lands, she comes out and she starts talking shit to a closed canopy, which seems really stupid, outside of just sitting in a chair doing nothing. When the canopy opens, she sees Grogu inside and asks what happened. Now, she gets the information off R5, gets in her ship with Grogu, R5, and speeds off to Mandalore. And now we have Bo-Katan coming to the rescue of Din Djarin. Now, once they're on the planet, they get into the cavern and they make their way down in the descent. And they start walking along, and Bo-Katan is kind of talking to Grogu about needing him to navigate her to his father, or to Din, basically, which he does. He does a bit. And she starts asking him questions about the Force and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty much none of her damn business. But she's asking questions, and apparently she understands Grogu. So she's understanding his responses that he's given about the Force, how much he can use it. And she's telling him about how the Jedi used to fight with the Mandalorians side by side, that they were actually really close at one time. And from there, we get into Bo-Katan's first fight in this episode, where she sees some of these Morlock creatures, little traps that they set up, and springs the trap and fights the three of these things, hand to hand. And she does a lot better than Din was doing trying to wield the Darksaber, because I guess she's just better. Okay. She takes the three of these things out and looks back at Grogu to tell her, did you think your father was the only Mandalorian? And my thing was like, no, he fucking saw Boba Fett, so he knows there's more than one. I'm just, he's met the armorer too, so he's seen more than just his daddy. But I think the inference is supposed to be that she has not seen another Mandalorian fight, which is also not true. But whatever, fuck. There are some contrivances in this shit that cannot be overlooked. Be that as it may, Grogu leads Bo-Katan to Din, and when we meet Din again, we see that he is in kind of a bad way. That the creature, the spider creature that had captured him, was actually a ship for another robotic spider-like creature that was riding inside of it. And this creature has now hooked Din up with some hoses to a machine, and he is trying to suck the juices or the flesh or whatever the hell out of Din inside the armor. Basically, he figured he got him some crab, and he's just going to suck the crab meat out with a straw. Basically. Bo-Katan shows up, shoots the machine, and the creature goes after her. Now, during this fight, before Bo-Katan arrived, the creature had taken Din's gun and the Darksaber and threw them aside, basically thinking that it disarmed Din, which to me seems silly because Mandalorians have gauntlets that have ropes, blowtorches, rockets, shit like that, which means they're never really defenseless. Never. Even the way he's caged up, he's not really defenseless. I mean, it looks like the cage from the Temple of Doom, but he's not really defenseless, right? He's just kind of out of it. Be that as it may, when the fight with this creature ensues with this creature in Bo-Katan, Bo-Katan gets a hold of the Darksaber. And you see that she is more confident with using the Darksaber, that she can actually use it effectively with no weight. She swings it, she cuts, she goes to town, with this creature. Now, the creature itself is reminding me, because we got a close-up shot of it, of his eye, and the creature is reminding me of General Grievous. Like, I'm really curious if it is the same species as General Grievous, because it's this robotic, organic shit going on. It looks like the same type of thing to me. Bo-Katan cuts it up, fucks this body up so it's down, and its head detaches and skitters away. And while Bo-Katan is trying to free Din, or just giving Din shit, trying to bring him around, asking him if he's okay while he's trapped in a coffin-like cage with hoses hanging out of his ass, she is set upon by this creature inside the spider bot, right? And with little to no word, she goes to fucking town with this Darksaber on that robot, doing a lot of cool shit, but basically proving that she's better at using this thing than Din is, right? Creature is dead, bad guy vanquished. She frees Din, and when Din wakes up, Bo-Katan and Grogu are sitting there, and he realizes that he owes her a debt of thanks because she saved his life. Now, for me, this part was cool, but what happens in this conversation is that Din still wants to go to the living waters. And Bo-Katan doesn't believe in it. It's not that big of a deal to her. It's like, it's nothing, right? But since Din is really determined to do it, that he has to get his honor in some senses back, it was covert. Bo-Katan offers to go with him to lead him to the living waters, because when Bo-Katan was young, she had been there before. She knew this place. She had been to the Civic Center before. She knows how to get to the living waters. Din does not. He's just stumbling and bumbling his way through this, apparently. So she agrees, and she does. Now, while they're walking through this Civic Center part, they have a little conversation. Bo-Katan gets to fill Din in on the history of the place that she knows. And sure enough, they come upon the caverns to the mines of Mandalore. And she lets them know that this is older because these mines were here before Mandalore. And they didn't make them. And that the living waters were supposed to be something else. And when they get to the living waters, she reads the plaque that's inscribed there, because for Bo-Katan, all this stuff is pomp and circumstances and food for the masses. It wasn't real. It was a story they told the masses to keep everybody else believing. But the royal family didn't believe in this shit. They really didn't. It's just something they told to everybody else. So she reads him the plaque and lets him know that these living waters were once supposed to be the lair of the mythosaur, and that the first Mandalore had tamed and rode that creature. And this is where the living waters come from. Now, while she's trying to relay all this to Din, Din does not speak. Din just starts taking off his gun, darksaber, jetpack, and he walks into the water like he's at a Christian revival about to get baptized and, to have his honor with his creed reestablished. And by the time he gets about waist high off, he just disappears under the water. Disappears flat out. And Bo-Katan jumps in after him to discover that this pool is deep. Like, as deep as the chasm that they jetpacked down to get into this place. It's deep. And Bo-Katan, jumping underwater with her jetpack on, is able to go all the way down to the bottom and grab Din, who fell remarkably quick in that split second time, but bring him up to the surface. And while they're on their way, jetpacking up from the bottom of the living waters back to the surface, they pass a mythosaur. And Bo-Katan kind of freaks because the mythosaur is down there under the water and it's alive. No bullshit. So by the time she comes up, the creature has moved. And when she gets to the surface and pulls him out, they are just there. And that is where the episode ends. The episode ends with letting you know that a mythosaur still exists. And the mythosaur, along with the dark saber, are all these ingredients for somebody to rule Mandalore and bring all the Mandalorians back to Mandalore. Now, one of the things that is interesting about Mandalore that Din states when he was landing the first time is that once you're on the surface of Mandalore, you can't communicate with anybody in the universe. That because of the fusion bombing, that electromagnetic poles are kind of screwed up, so there's a lot of interference. Communications won't work. Now, when I saw this, I'm thinking that's a perfect place for a base, because nobody can get a signal to you, right? It seems like you're cut off, but that means nobody can scan your planet to find out where the hell you are. They can't figure out if you're down there either. They have to come down and make a visual presence to see that. So my thinking is that's a perfect place for a base. Why the fuck not? Nobody is thinking, that the planet is habitable. And then they can't contact it anyway. They can't read it from space. So you Gucci. You should just set up shop. Make a base. Right? But seeing the mythosaur getting Din out of the water, hopefully he's not still sucking on living water in his lungs. That's how the episode ends. Now, for me, I like the episode because I like the reveal of new stuff that I have not seen before. That was not what I got in Bad Batch. What I got in Bad Batch was a hackneyed copy of a movie series I've already seen a lot of. This was not that. This was actually interesting, introducing me to a new place, some new creatures, with a story I give a damn about, and haven't really seen in this franchise before. So I appreciated that. So for my money, episode 2 of The Mandalorian is a good one, something worth watching. I did like seeing Katie Sackhoff on the screen again and realizing that Katie is one of my favorite female names. Just made the list. And Katie Sackhoff got some good hips on her. I'm sorry. That Mandalorian suit was hugging her right. I'm looking at this shit like, Mocha got some ass. Sorry, it's just, look, I'm hetero. I'm very much a big lesbian. So with that being said, I enjoyed this episode. Gave me some surprises, some things I was not expecting in the show, and I'm interested to see what happens next. So that's it for my review of The Mandalorian, episode 2. Like, share, subscribe, support the stream if you feel so inclined, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.